You know how in the Princess Diaries, the books and the movies, Lana Weinberger is Mia Thermopolis' worst enemy. She's the worst thing that's ever happened to Mia. She's as mean to Mia Thermopolis as it gets, no matter what. Except for the 30 seconds when Mia becomes a princess and everyone decides that they want to really suck up to Mia to get, their share of princess fame. Except for then, Lana Weinberger does not give a shit about Mia. And even when she's trying to be nice to Mia, then Mia steals her boyfriend for a second because Josh Richter, this emptied 30 seconds ago, Josh Richter decides that the minute Mia's famous, he's going to use that fame, he's going to become her boyfriend, and that's an entirely different story that we should actually talk about because it's so much more interesting in the book than it is in the movie, and the movie makes it very interesting. But then, this crazy, weird, strange thing happens after the 7th Princess Diaries book, because there are 10 Princess Diaries books, not including the COVID special. The crazy thing, the absolutely insane thing. My friend is texting me and I'm trying really hard not to read it. Cheyenne, I'm really mad at you for texting me at this exact moment. I'm kidding, I love you. But anyways, Lana and Mia become friends directly after Mia Thermopolis loses Lily Moscovitz as a friend, because Lily Moscovitz decides that Mia is no longer worth her time, and there are 17 separate ways that this happens, and 17 separate ways that draw them apart, but the entire fault of the entire thing is JP and how much he used Lily Moscovitz to get closer to Mia, which is an insane concept because Mia would have been friends with JP if he hadn't dated Lily. She would have. But he only wanted to stick around in this very specific capacity, and he only knows how to use people. So because he only knows how to use people, he decided to use Lily. Again, I should be making a separate video about JP because I am talking about Lana. Lily ditches Mia. Lily gets so mad at Mia that she decides that they're not friends anymore. They're never going to be friends again. Mia is a bitch. She's the worst. She makes an I Hate Mia Thermopolis website. It's an entire thing. And while that happens, you know who becomes Mia Thermopolis' friend? Because Lily and Mia had a very public falling out in the middle of the cafeteria and everyone saw Lana Weinberger. Lana Weinberger goes, we're friends now. And Mia goes, there's no one behind me. And Lana goes, yeah, I know. You always seem kind of okay, but also the worst because Lily's the worst and I hate Lily. But you aren't that bad. And honestly, I shouldn't have been as mad at you about the Josh thing as I was for so many years. Because, Josh was the worst. He was a terrible boyfriend. He was the worst. And also, he was a loser. So I don't know why I was so obsessed with him. Girls should stick together. You, I have noticed, have grown out of all of your clothing because Mia had a huge growth spurt when she went through her depression streak. So she goes through this depression streak of losing Michael as a boyfriend, losing Lily as a best friend, losing everything in her life. She won't leave the bed. She won't leave the house. Lars has to physically carry her to a therapy appointment because her dad is forcing her to go to therapy. And this entire thing happens, and Mia, at that time, decides that she no longer cares about vegetarianism and is gonna eat meat because if the world is over, she might as well eat meat anyway. And then all of a sudden, the growth spurt just happens. The boobs come out, the butt comes in, the pants don't fit, the hair, everything has grown. Things have inflated. And Lana goes, you have changed and you need new clothes because these don't fit and it's not a good look, bestie. And Mia goes, okay. So Lana offers to bring Mia shopping. Shopping with Lana Weinberger is not something Mia ever had on any of her bingo cards ever for the entirety of her life. And they go shopping. And Lana is aren't you a princess? Don't you have an insane amount of money? Why are you looking at the cheapest possible option for every single thing that you could own when you have a credit card with a royal name on it? Use the money, bitch. So Leah starts shopping and she starts spending an inordinate amount of money for the first time in her life because she has the money. And her parents have always been like, you don't need to spend this much money. You don't need to spend this much money. But Mia's like, these are clothes that I'm gonna use for a very long time. I should use money that I have to buy clothes that not only fit me, but make me feel really good about myself for the first time in a very long time. And just dress like a full human being instead of the previous Mia. So she goes through an entire makeover with Lana and Lana's friend whose name I'm forgetting. And all the while, Lana and the friend aren't being particularly nice, but they're also not being particularly mean. They're just going, ooh, no, that looks terrible on you. Take it off. Ooh, wait, no, this looks terrible on me, but you know what? This color would look really good on you. Put this on. I'll take that. You should try this for mine. And yeah, no, this will work. This is great. This is awesome. Okay, yeah. And she just doesn't bullshit. She doesn't bullshit. And Mia starts to realize that everything that she'd been judging Lana on before, well, some of it was accurate and some of it was true, and Lana was a mean girl, was no longer true and no longer accurate. And Lana was very willing to just be Mia's friend and not really expect anything in return. And they became best friends. It was Lana, it was Mia, it was Tina, and Lana wasn't mean to Tina. She was just the blunt version of herself that she'd always been, because she's always blunt. She's always like really not hard on people, but she'll just say the thing that's in her mind out loud, and to the people who get it, and the people who don't. But she's never been one to care about the people who don't get things. She's not thinking about other people's feelings in an obsessive manner, which also Lily Moscovitz wasn't either. She was just pretending to, but she also thought that no one should really have feelings because they should have them psychedelically taken out of their brain because her parents are therapists. I got chocolate everywhere. Good thing I just cleaned this table, so I still have the clean rag. And yeah, no, Lana Weinberger is Mia's best friend, and nothing makes me madder. Nothing makes me madder in the entire universe than that in the 10th Princess Diaries book, when Mia is marrying Michael Moscovitz, Lana is basically written out of the book series. She's married to Kennedy. She's just a housewife. She works in interior design, and she uses like Mia to get like trips to places. And I'm like, Meg, no. Meg, that was the exact opposite of the character that you created. You gave Lana this entire beautiful character arc, and then you took all of that away so you could make Lily more actively Mia's best friend. No, Meg. Why, Meg? Why are you doing this, Meg? We love Lana. We hate Lily. It's an entire thing. And also Lily ends up wanting to fuck Lars for the entirety of the 10th book, which is also weird. So weird. I don't care how hot Lars is supposed to be, because this is not Joe, this is Lars. Lars is a completely different character. But anyways, yeah, that's my speech. I love Lana Weinberger, which is not something I ever thought I'd say. And not only because I hated her for so many years, but also because I had a teacher named Mrs. Weinberg. And she was such a bitch. And I know that has nothing to do with anything, but when names go too similarly together, it sticks with me forever. I won't even be called Jackie anymore because of all the bitchy Jackies I've known in my life. They know who they are. Okay, anyways, bye! Here's the thing. You know how Zoe Kravitz initially wanted to name Blink Twice Pussy Island, and a lot of people are like mad about that? And I completely understand why, because the movie was really triggering, as I've made in like a very big point about in like the past 5 videos that I've made on this, but Zoe Kravitz wanted to name the movie Blink Twice Pussy Island. That's how she was selling it. That's how she was trying to sell it. That's what she wanted the title of the name to be. A lot of people are upset about that, but I actually think that's a perfect title for the movie because it tells you what's coming. It tells you what's coming. The entire point of this film became that there's going to be a huge twist, that the twist is going to be a really big deal, and no one gave any factor for what the twist was going to be, and then it turns out that the twist was just assault. It turns out that this movie wasn't Knives Out meets Ready or Not. This movie wasn't I Spit on Your Grave. This movie was just, actually I've never seen I Spit on Your Grave. People just keep like referencing it in my comment section, so if I'm wrong about that, just tell me, okay? Just tell me. Be nice about it, but tell me. But no, this movie wasn't like Knives Out 2. This movie wasn't any of the things that anybody thought it was. This movie was not about a cult who was slowly taking people and killing them, which was what my thought was. No. This was a movie that was about men leading girls onto an island that they own and then horrifically assaulting them and removing all of their memories so that these girls just keep coming back for more, basically, with no knowledge of what had happened the night before. And Pussy Island is a perfect title for that film. The biggest issue that I have with this movie is that the marketing told us nothing about what the movie was actually about. The trigger warning did nothing because you only see it when you're going into the theater. You need more information. You've already decided to see the movie. You've already bought the ticket. You're already sitting down. The semantics in the trigger warning are nothing. Sexual violence could mean anything. It could mean completely off-screen things, and instead it was completely on-screen things. But if you titled the movie Pussy island, people would understand what they were in for at least a little bit more. And I honestly think that Blink Twice should have at least given us a tiny bit more information on what we, as the audience, were in for. Because I think, and I'm gonna start analyzing this movie for real soon, because I really do think this, and I think that me talking about the trigger warning so continuously is taking away from that. Because people just keep telling me that it was a bad movie that never needed to be made, and I disagree with that. I think it was a great movie. I think it had great potential. I think that the assault didn't need to happen in the way that it happened, but I'm a really big fan of the Greek tragedy concept of things. All the violence happens off screen. You're told what happened. They didn't want to use fake blood. You're just told what went down. And it worked. People were scared. People were in awe because honestly, sometimes not seeing the thing the entire time is scarier than seeing the thing. It works in just the same way. It would have worked great. And if the movie would have marketed itself better and told the audience what they could expect and told the audience what they needed to know, people would have been able to enjoy it for what it was more. And what it is a really good look at why you should not trust people in power, why you should not trust men in power, why it's important that women talk to each other so they can understand what's going on, because if each woman's being separated from the pack so that they never share the memories that they're like kind of sort of not having, and they can't figure out why they're not having all these memories, it helps. The entire point to the movie is that Frida and Sarah start talking to each other and they realize what's wrong with the situation even before Frida starts remembering everything that happened. Anyways, I'm going to keep talking about this for the rest of the time. Thanks.
The thing that makes me really sad about the fact that Chappell Roan had to come onto TikTok and call people out for being legitimately creepy and stalking her is the fact that everything she had to say is going to go right over the heads of people who needed to hear it the most. There's been an overwhelming response to the videos that Chappell Roan made, the vast majority of them being very supportive, but even in those supportive responses to what she said, I'm seeing people act as if they're friends with her, as if they were not the people she was talking to in the video. And this is where parasocial relationships get really scary, because when you are in a parasocial relationship with somebody, you will always think that you are the exception. I feel like it's pretty easy to identify when other people are overstepping boundaries when it comes to parasocial relationships. But when it comes to your own parasocial relationship with somebody, you're going to jump through hoop after hoop after hoop to explain your thought process and why it makes total sense, when you are not in fact the exception. None of us are. Not even Chappell Roan is immune to it. Like, we all have people that we look up to and admire and like to listen to. It's okay for those people to bring you comfort and for you to interact with them online and be a fan and send your support. What's not okay is thinking that that constitutes a friendship when they have absolutely no idea who you are. I do not care if the stranger you saw picking up garbage in a parking lot was somebody's baby once. Stop filming strangers without their consent. Like, from the perspective of the person with the camera, yeah, that guy in the parking lot was at some point a baby who is now doing something else with his life that isn't baby related because he's a grown man. From his perspective, in the empty parking lot he was in with nobody else around, it was probably something like this. This is what he saw. Like, I personally wouldn't feel safe in that situation. Especially because in these days, if you see somebody filming you in public, it's usually because they think you're doing something wrong and they want to like hold you accountable for it so that they can go to law enforcement later. You aren't considering the feelings and the safety and the thoughts and emotions of the people you are filming. When you make your little aesthetic TikTok videos about Sonder, you can make a video talking about how you experienced Sonder on your walk without filming the stranger you saw on your walk. Stop filming strangers without their consent. Stop filming strangers without their consent. It's creepy and it's weird. It's creepy and it's weird. I think one of the worst things that can happen on here is when a man comes on here and makes a thirst trap while wearing like a cardigan, and then he gets a million comments saying that he's appealing to the female gaze. And from that moment on, from the first female gaze comment that a male creator gets on this app, every video he makes will be him making a thirst trap that he pretends he doesn't know is a thirst trap while wearing wearing a sweater. I'm reasonably positive that most of the female gaze creators on this app think that the female gaze just consists of wearing a sweater and dancing to Hosier, which sometimes is true. But if you're going to appeal to the female gaze, you need to understand that the female gaze is about expressing masculinity in unconventional ways. And while some may argue that dancing to Hosier while wearing a sweater on TikTok is somewhat unconventional of an expression of masculinity, I would argue that performing a role that you think would appeal to the masses of women just because you want them to think you are attractive is not necessarily an unconventional expression of masculinity, in my humble opinion. Like, there are very few female gaze TikTokers who I would feel safe and secure alone at a bar with my drink uncovered with. Not because I necessarily think that they would do anything, but I definitely don't think that they would say anything if they saw somebody else do something, you know? Growing up in the evangelical church, I thought that bisexuality was the default for everybody. Like, I thought being attracted to anybody was normal, and that was a temptation that everybody was going to be faced with at some point in their life. And you had to choose every single time what the right choice was, because the way that the church talked about sexual sin and sexual promiscuity, they were like, in life you will be tempted by beautiful women with big boobies, and don't look at them and don't touch them or you're going to hell, but you might also be tempted by the men on the boxer brief packaging in the Kmart, and don't look at those either or you're going to hell. Don't do it. So I just foolishly assumed that everybody was bisexual growing up, and it did not help when I started getting outed to people in my church community, and more than one adult figure in my life was like, you know, I've had experiences in college. I gave into temptation once. And that really compounded the guilt and shame I felt about myself for so long, because I was like, if this is a temptation that everybody experiences and a lot of people are able to quell, then something has got to be wrong with me. Like, there's totally something wrong with me specifically. But no, there were just like a lot of closeted people in the church. Like, a lot of closeted people in the church. Way more closeted people in the church than you might think. And I know that you probably think there's a lot. There's way more.
Let's do a fall TBR. Okay, so the end of August for me is pretty busy, and I'm also only reading my NetGalley arcs because I am behind by like 17 books. So I won't be starting any of these books until September, and I have been out of my fantasy era. I have not read any fantasy or sci-fi, which are my two favorite genres. So I really want to focus on really getting back into that, and also reading series because I suck at those. So the first book that I want to talk about is an arc that I have, and it is Blood Over Bright Haven. So I really want to get through this because I love the Sword of Kaigen, and I already know I'm gonna love this, but I'm gonna be reading this. I'm gonna be buddy reading this in October with Trey, actually, and I'm super excited. I love our buddy reads. We buddy read the Sword of Kaigen, actually, so I think we're gonna have so much fun with this. Okay, and so the next book I have is The Queen of Blood. I don't remember what this is about, but I love the cover. I love the series covers. It's very, very small, and it just looks like, look at this cover. This looks like a cute little cozy, I don't like cozy fantasy, okay, but a cute little cozy fantasy book with plot. Okay, my issue with cozy fantasies is that they don't have plot, and I need plot if I'm going to be sitting here for 300 pages. If you want to give me a cozy fantasy that's like 100 pages and it like, then that's fine. But okay, so Royal Assassin, I am really behind on the Realm of the Elderling. I've been reading this series since way before it became popular on TikTok. Okay, I have been reading this series since 2020 actually. Yeah, I've been reading this book since 2020, the series since 2020, and I do not like the Fitz like storylines. I'm sorry, they're very depressing, and they're fine and they're fun and like blah blah blah. I prefer Ship of Magic, and I want to move on with the series, but I don't feel comfortable. Like, I would skip books in the series, but I want to get the series like as a whole, so I'm not gonna be skipping anything. I was at first because I read Ship of Magic, but I went back and I'm like, no, I want to finish this. So and this fall I want to finish the Fitz series so I can move on. Okay, I feel like if once I finish these, I'm gonna speed through the rest. Okay, then we have The Blade itself, which I have already read, and originally I was gonna reread it, but every time I try to reread it, I just end up like soft DNFing it. So I'm just gonna jump into the other books, but I didn't grab the other books by accident, so we're just gonna pretend that these are the other books. But I do like the series, and I heard that they get better as you move on. So yeah, if you're a romantasy girl and you're like, where are the romance books? I don't have any. I do not have any. I'm sorry. I cannot. I have to like literally put a hold on romance books. Also, romance books have not been that good to me this year, so I kind of just said that I'm not gonna read them anymore. But anyways, Empire of Silence, I also have read this, and I read this way before it got popular on BookTok, and now I'm behind, okay? And everybody else has been reading this series and is getting very popular, which it deserves. I love that for this series, but now I'm behind. I thought it was cute and fun when I had read them more than everybody else. Now everybody else has read more than me, and I gotta play catch up. Like, this is crazy. Okay? The Principle of Moments, like, ugh. When the author sent me this book, I got into a reading slump. Okay? I was literally gonna start this book, and then I got into a reading slump. So, I'm gonna be reading this for fall. I really want to get to this in September, actually. Just, like, look how stunning this cover is. And I also want to read Sufficiently Advanced Magic. I don't know if this is talked about on BookTok, but you can find it on Kindle Unlimited. I think it's on Kindle Unlimited. Last time I checked it was. But I really want to read this series because it just seems very fun. And I've seen some artwork for it, and I like it. Okay, so the publisher sent me Immortal Dark, and like, this is so stunning. It's Black Vampires, Dark Academia. That's my whole brand. That's literally my whole brand. The author is stalking me, and I need her to not do that. Like, get out of my closet, okay? So then I have some classics because I wanted to do a Rory Gilmore reading vlog. And usually when people do Rory Gilmore reading vlog, like Rory Gilmore videos, they're like, oh, here are the books that Rory Gilmore has read that I've read. No, I'm going to sit down and read these books. I love reading classics in September. It is so fun. It sets the mood. So here are the classics that I have. I have Wuthering Heights, which I've never read before. Very excited. Twilight Girlies. Every girly who's a Twilight girly and reads classics have read this. Then I have The Phantom of the Opera because, duh. And then I have Frankenstein, which I did read in high school, but I don't remember a single thing from it, so I want to reread it, especially as an adult. Especially as an adult and form my own opinions. Okay? And then I have House of Leaves. I've owned this book for a very long time, and I really want the hardcover, but I cannot, like, when I already own a paperback, I can't justify rebuying it in hardcover until I've read it. And I have tried to read this, and it was so much going on, but I'm dedicated to trying again. But also I have this thing where I will quit. I will give up. I have no problem with giving up, as we can see. So I'm going to give this one more try, and if I don't make it through, she's out of here, actually. Hopefully I do make it through and I like it, and I give it 5 stars so I can buy it in hardcover. I know a lot of people on BookTok, they love paperbacks. I'm a hardcover girly. Like, I'm sorry. They look good together. I love them. It's my thing. And then I have Plain Bad Heroines, which I spray painted the edges myself. And look at y'all need to hire me because I did an amazing job on this, okay? And this is a Sapphic Dark Academia story, so obviously, I had to put it on my TBR. So yeah, that is my fall TBR, and that's a brief one because a lot of my TBR is digital. It's on my Kindle, and I read very fast. So like, I could read all of these in September if I wanted to. Okay, let me not brag and then I get in a reading slump, and then I'm like, damn. But yeah, I'm very excited. Let me know if any of these are like on your list. And happy fall. I'm literally so freaking excited. If you would have told me back when Netflix first came out, I'm talking Netflix when they would send the DVDs out and then you would have to send the DVD back. If you would have told me that would be the downfall of TV, and we would go from having 22 episodes to 10 episodes, and the possibility of a show getting canceled was so much more higher than the show getting renewed, I would have never made the switch over to streaming service. Literally, like, what is the point of watching TV now if it's not a reboot, already like something that's already a property, or a book series that's already popular? It is not getting renewed. And honestly, the book, like, none of those are even saving it, to be honest. Like, there's so many like reboots of popular shows that did well themselves that just got canceled. One of my favorite one of my favorite books that I've read is The Vampire Academy. That got one. Now the movie did flop, so like, okay, I loved it. It didn't flop to me. I had the movie on DVD. I rewatch it every single October. Like, it did well in my heart. But the TV show on Peacock didn't get renewed for another season. And honestly, I enjoyed the show. Like, I loved having a Black Rose, like, duh. But at the same time, the show was kind of boring. Like, I was tuning in every week because the chemistry between those characters were insane. This is not a review for Vampire Academy, okay? It's just so sick and twisted that, like, what's the point of watching TV now if everything's gonna get canceled? Like, why would I tune into a TV show and I gotta be like, I really don't know if this is gonna get a season 2. I gotta sit here and be like, is this gonna get a second season? Or is this gonna get a third season? I'm not gonna sit. I would rather watch a miniseries. Okay, I would rather sit and watch a movie. I am more of a book person than I am anything else. But I'm more of a TV show person than I am a movie person, because I love the fact that you're with these characters for so long and you have so much time with these characters and you can watch them grow as people. And yeah, you can do that if the movie gets like a sequel and all that. But the probability of a movie getting a sequel is higher than a TV show getting a new season. This is literally insane. Why would I continue? And then I saw an article a few months ago being like, why are all the popular TV shows right now, or the most rewatched TV shows that came out in like the early 2000s? Maybe because instead of canceling it after one season, they decided, hey, let's build an audience. Because if Teen Wolf came out today, it would have been canceled. Okay? I love the first season of Teen Wolf, but if that show came out today, it would have been canceled, and we wouldn't have got. I was gonna be like, we would have gotten 6 other amazing seasons, but some of those seasons weren't amazing. But if Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out today, if you Google Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 1, you will see so many negative reviews. You will see literally people being like, how did Buffy get renewed? Like, how did this get past season 1? Like, it was so terrible. I love it personally. A lot of our favorite shows like would not have been renewed, and it's just crazy to me because it's just like nobody lets people grow. Like, it's like you need to be an instant success or you're out of here. Why would I want to tune in? Why would I want to watch it? Why would I want to watch a TV show and I gotta be like, oh, is this gonna get renewed? No. I would rather sit and read books. I would rather watch a movie, because I'm not about to sit here and hope that these characters that I love are coming back on my TV screen. No. So I am currently backed up on my NetGalley arcs. I had about 17 and I've been making my way through them all. So I've just read 7 of those. So I want to go through what I've read so far and how I feel about them. So currently I'm reading Dungeon Crawler Matt. This book is already out. You can read it on Kindle Unlimited, but the Berkeley is republishing them and I love the covers. And so I picked this one up and I'm having so much fun. It's about a guy who one day it just wakes up and he's put into like a video game. It's more like a game show, but it interacts as I read it as if it's a video game, because that's kind of how it sounds. Like, there's different levels and there's a bunch of lore that he has to learn, and I think it's so unique. It's one of the most unique fantasies I've ever read, and it's very fascinating and it's just so much fun to read. It's very simple. And then also I read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is my favorite author of all time. I love his books. Like, he's the only author I've read every single book from, to be honest. This book comes out January of next year, but I loved it. It's not like super gory or scary, but I got really attached to the characters in this book because it's about a bunch of young teenage girls who are pregnant and then they're sent to live in this home and then they discover witchcraft. And I have never once said, I wish this book was longer. I wish this book was longer. This book was almost 500 pages and I have never felt so attached to like characters ever. And I loved it. And so then I also read Dinner. I had a whole vampire thing going on here, I just realized. But then I read Dinner for Vampires, which is actually a memoir from Bethany Joy Lenz, who plays Haley James Scott in One Tree Hill. I'm not a huge fan of One Tree Hill, but this is about her, how she was on that show, which was like a cult classic, but she was also in a cult at the same time. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't like Britney Spears or I'm Glad My Mom Died like type of memoir. It was really good though. And then I also read My Vampire Plus One. I loved My Vampire Roommate by this author, so I immediately requested this, and that was my first mistake. I am sick of fake dating tropes. If you want to hear more about that, I have a YouTube video. You can click it the link in my bio. But I have a YouTube video on why I'm tired of fake dating, but it's just like so overdone. Every series has a fake dating book. Their fake dating reasons are fucking stupid, and I just didn't care for this book. I didn't love it as much as the first one. I thought the first one was like so funny. It was so creative. It was like a trope that's like not really written about. Like, I mean, the romance trope is written about, but it's not like written about as much as like other tropes. And so yeah, I was just like, it was 3 stars. Then I also read So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. This was also another vampire book. Like I said, I love vampires. I have to read as much vampire media as I can. Like, it's so good. But this one is about 2 friends who go on vacation and they end up getting turned into vampires. Rachel Harrison writes like the 2 friends going through something trope a lot, and it's just like, girl, if you're not gonna make them sapphic, why do you keep writing them? You know what I'm saying? Like, the first one, okay, but like I even looked into the other ones and I've seen other reviews being like, yeah, this is about like female friendship, and I'm like, okay, how many books are you gonna write where that's like the sole purpose of the book? And it's just like, oh, vampires, werewolves, ghosts, like whatever, but they all kind of have like the same idea, and it's like, I'm kind of tired of it. And also, like, this book was just fine. Like, it read really fast. Then I read I Am Not Jessica Chen by Anne Luang, and I love this book. I love all of her books. This is my 3rd book by her, and I gave all of them 5 stars. Okay, I thought this book was super fun. It was super creative. The romance was like, when I went into this book, I didn't know there was going to be romance, and I didn't care. But when I saw something and I was like, oh, I hope that happens, and it did, and I was correct. And I was like, oh, Miss Anne, you know me very well. I loved it. And then lastly, I read This Revenant's Fate, which one of my friends on BookTube wrote. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which I'm kind of sad about, but I just felt like the book was just like really, really slow for it to be like as thick as it was. Like, it was really, 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 really slow, and it kind of like took me out of the story with like how slow it was, and I just didn't. And then even though it was slow, like, I couldn't find myself attaching to the characters. And even though this is vampires in Sapphic, I just feel like the fact that it was YA, it just wasn't for me. Like, I just feel like I wasn't the target audience in this book, but I still wanted to read it to support my friend. So I do recommend checking this out if you are interested in like sapphic vampires, just to give it a try. But yeah, those are all the books I read. Y'all still have more to go. So I guess I'll be back. I'm trying not to request any NetGalleys, but it's just so fun, and I get automatically accepted for Berkeley, so I sometimes just go in there like, oh, what do they have this month? Like, it's a freaking book subscription, like, and it's fun. Anyways, you guys like my braids? I did them myself, and I think they came out really cute. Okay, I'm bored, so let's rank book boyfriend types. Golden Retriever. I definitely have black cat like energy. Like, I'm definitely a black cat girly, so I'll say 3. I'll say 3. Good comedian. It depends. Like, if it's like class clown type of comedian, then yes. But if he's like, he just thinks he's funny, I don't like men who think that they're funny. I like men who are funny because they're funny, but I don't like men who like think that they're funny. I don't know, that doesn't make any sense. Dad energy. I don't really care for like single parent tropes. Like, I know those are like really popular, but I don't care for them, so I'll say 4, whatever. I don't care. Like, I'm not a smut girly, okay? I don't need to read smut every fucking day. Like, it's just not something I care for, so whatever. Silver Fox. Is that not the same thing as that? Whatever. It can go under. Don't care. Grumpy. I know we love like Grumpy Sunshine, but like, what about Grumpy? Like, I'm a grumpy girl who needs a grumpy man, okay? Well, I'll say 2. I can't do players. No, you're gonna piss. Something about a man who gets girls easily just pisses me off. Like, no. Soft and sweet and soft. I would break him. Yeah. Billionaire. I mean, who doesn't want a billionaire? But like, is that not the same thing as like the playboy? Like, usually when they're billionaires, they're playboys, so like, whatever. Damn. I mean, no, wait. I was hoping for a hot nerd, but I love monster romances. Like, that is my, like, I know how y'all love y'all like mafia books and y'all dark romances. That is what literal monster romances are for me. Like, give me a vampire. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I'm satisfied with this list. I'm sorry, but when Lisa Frankenstein said you like cool movies and music and stuff, but only for you, you want to be the only one who likes cool stuff, she ate. Because as a nerd who dates other nerds, there's nothing worse than dating other nerds. Like, I love nerds and I want my future partner to be a nerd, but the more I date nerds, the more I don't think it's gonna happen, because they hate when you know more about a subject than them. And as a neurodivergent girly, one of my main parts about consuming my favorite hobbies is that I need to know literally every single thing about it, and I also need somebody to talk about it with. So when I start seeing a guy who likes Game of Thrones and I just got into Game of Thrones, of course I want to tell them every single detail that I learned. And of course there's a lot of detail because I'm just in it. Like, I got into Star Wars last year and I learned a lot about Star Wars last year, but I don't remember like every single detail because I've had like 25 hyperfixations since then, but I still remember enough, right? Or I got into Game of Thrones like back in May, and I know more about Game of Thrones history than I do my own, but I've had more hyperfixation since then. So yeah, but one thing I learned, like, with dating guys is they don't like when you know more than them, and they don't like when you teach them things about stuff that they've liked for a long time or they also just got into. But when I've noticed when I'm talking to someone who's introducing me into something, oh, they love to introduce you to things. They love to be the one to put you on. That's what they want. They want to be the one to be like, yeah, I got you into this. I want to be the one that put you on. But they never want to like things like the same amount. Like, I can't know as much about this thing as you, but as long as I like it just enough, like, that's totally fine with you. This is why I gotta stop dating nerds, because I'm getting mad just thinking about it.
I literally couldn't use any other screenshot to talk about this, because TikTok would be like, why are the people dying on the screen? I just want to say, this is one of the best music videos I've seen in a minute. This is a real music video. Bring that back. I am so sick. If you have the budget, I understand. I understand that some people don't have the budget, but some people do. And you know what? Sometimes people don't have the budget and they make it work. But this had budget, and this was a music video. Like, this was a real music video. Like, you don't even get it. But yeah, I know they had a budget for this. Because first of all, Jenna Ortega is here. Second of all, do you see how crisp this is? This is Ultra K, 4K HD. Somebody filmed this with their eyeballs. Death becomes her. Exactly. Yeah, Meryl Streep, you will be famous forever. But there's so many cutesy movie references in this. And I feel like they did it in like a fun like way where it wasn't like bar for bar, word for word. From like a single movie, you know what I mean? The outfits gave, they had budget. This was expensive. I can tell. I know the bill was crazy. The outfits ate. Yeah, the outfits ate. I remember when all that shit was going down, and I said, and everyone was doing all the hoopla, and I said, guys, I feel like two of these people seem really talented and chill. And also, there's a man here. And everybody booed me. They stoned me in the town hall. But who got the last laugh?
It's one of those things where if you don't use it, you will lose it. As in, no matter who you vote for this fall, you need to go vote. And not voting is one of the most self-sabotaging things you can do. We live in a country where many of us commemorate and celebrate the day that we got the right to vote. And many of us have grandparents or great-grandparents that remember that day and that event, meaning it happened in recent history. And it happened in recent history because we spent so long fighting for it, and we fought for it because they didn't want us to have it. They will take it back if we don't use it. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because this election and all elections can only turn out one of two ways. And if you don't vote, neither is good for you. We have one side that has said with their literal words and also with their actions that they don't want you to vote. Voter disenfranchisement, gerrymandering, redistricting, what have you. And if you give them the platform to take that right away, they will. But on the other hand, if you don't vote, they're not going to fight for your vote. And I'm not saying that's right or good. I'm just saying it's true. Business, you don't market to people who won't buy your product. You market to people who will buy your product or who you at least can persuade. And in politics, you don't campaign on behalf of people who aren't voting. You campaign for people who will vote or who you can persuade to vote for you. This includes third-party votes, because if you're voting, then you can be persuaded. But not voting, hands off. And again, it's not right, but it is common sense, I fear, when their goal at the end of the day is to win. If you want to boycott the presidential election, that's your business. Do a write-in, vote third party, whatever, what have you. Make sure you're voting for your state and local elections. But not voting at all is cuckoo nuts bananas. I'm accepting apologies on behalf of other people. If no one did you harm, do not accept the apology. If I walked up to you in public and kicked you in the shin, you'd probably be pretty heated. You would bare minimum want me to apologize so that you could yell at me or accept the apology or not accept the apology or whatever, what have you, because I hurt you. So you'd be pretty upset if some other person who did not get kicked in the shin, who was not a part of our interaction, walked up and said, "Oh no, girlie, it's okay. You don't have to apologize." That's what y'all do every time a big creator wrongs somebody or some group of somebodies. Maya Ayouni recently released her apology video, and if you don't know, Maya Ayouni is a Palestinian activist who recently was super anti-black towards another creator, and some old videos of her being anti-black has recently resurfaced. Now, the apology video was inevitable, and there is something to be said about the fact that if you were anti-black ever in your history, you have to spend the rest of your life unlearning that, or else it's going to jump out in any situation it can, like this. My issues with the comments on that video, because there were a ton of non-black people, as in people she did not offend, not only accepting the apology, but celebrating her and absolving her of all guilt and wrongdoing. I'm not saying people can't be forgiven. I'm saying it's weird that y'all are forgiving someone who didn't do anything to you. And yet y'all do it all the time, especially if the harm is done towards a black creator and the black community, as if our hurt just doesn't matter. When I say y'all do this all the time, I mean y'all did this a month ago with Yuval when he apologized for being anti-black to another creator. Stop accepting apologies that aren't meant for you. It is not only dehumanizing, but just really, really weird. The craziest thing about Chris Brown apologists to me is that they're always like, okay, but Rihanna forgave him. Why are you getting involved? Why do you still care? Blah, 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 blah. Like, he doesn't have allegations going all the way up to like 2020. I mean, on one hand, just because Rihanna forgave him doesn't mean that I have to, because just because she, as the victim, has since moved on doesn't mean I have to forgive him for the abusive person that he is. I mean, I still have friends who hold grudges against exes of mine long after I've forgiven and forgotten, because just because I found my peace in forgiveness doesn't mean that it's all water under the bridge or that they've forgotten and moved on. But beyond that, that man has 20 more allegations at least since 2009, including things like assault, SA, grape, you name it, he's done it. I mean, Karrueche had to get a restraining order against him. He got in a fight with Frank Ocean. He's laid his hands on everybody from fans to photographers. The man is a menace. And yet every time I talk about Chris Brown, people come out the woodwork talking about Rihanna forgave him. You need to move on. You need to let it go. He's a better man since he had kids. He's not a better man. He showed you who he is like 20 different times. Y'all just have an unnatural allegiance to somebody who hasn't put out a good song in about a decade. Some people are voting exclusively with their moral sense of right and wrong. Some people are voting with strategy, like harm reduction. Neither one of those is inherently wrong. However, you will disproportionately see black people voting according to a strategy because we have never had an election and never had candidates that appealed entirely to our moral sense of right and wrong. For example, in 2020, do you think we wanted to vote for Joe Biden? Mr. You're not black if you don't vote for me. Mr. Sponsor of the 1994 crime bill, which contributed to the mass incarceration we're still suffering with in communities today. In 2016, we didn't just love Hillary Clinton, who called our black boys and children super predators, who wholeheartedly supported her husband and his actions that led to the largest increase in inmates in American history over a presidential term. We voted for her, not because we thought she was so great and amazing, but because we again understood she's better than Donald Trump. In fact, that has been the black voting strategy for decades, to go for the candidate that will give you the least amount of harm, because there is no candidate that will present us with no harm. Because if we're honest, if there were two candidates that equally did no harm to our communities, then a lot of black folk, especially older black folk, would be conservatives, like it or not. But generally speaking, we don't vote that way. And generally speaking, we never have. To expect that all of a sudden in this election to condemn exclusively and specifically black folk for following the voting strategy we've been using for decades because it doesn't align with you voting exclusively according to your moral sense of right and wrong is, silly. So again, do what you want to do, but stop condemning people for doing things that they've always been doing, especially when y'all have a history of thanking us for doing that thing after the election. At the risk of sounding like one of those wealthy neo-libs that lives with their parents, I'm also sick of voting in those lesser of two evil elections. My question is, what are y'all going to do about it, both 3 months out from the election and in the future to keep it from happening again? Because every election I voted in since I started voting in 2016 has been a lesser of two evils election. But also, almost every election that my parents have voted in and my grandparents have voted in has been a lesser of two evils election, because that is what elections are when you're marginalized. They're not rooting for us, and they never have. This is what the reality of voting is for many of us. I'm sorry you found out this way, and welcome. Maybe now you'll help us change it, because you didn't help us change it any sooner. Because this election was always going to look this way. In fact, it looks better now than it did before, because this was supposed to be a true lesser of two evils election between Genocide Joe and Donald Trump. And did y'all do anything to keep Donald Trump from coming back for a third election in a row? Not really. We didn't protest. We didn't boycott any sooner. I don't remember any big petitions to legislatures or calling our senators or anything to try to keep that reoccurring rash off the ballot. And not only is Orange Satan back on the ballot on one side, but we also didn't do our part in terms of organizing and advocating for a better candidate besides Biden any sooner either. Which means that when he did step aside, hallelujah, because he said for eons he wasn't going to, we were stuck with whoever they thought of. Which brings me to my last point, which is that if y'all don't want to live this way, I don't either, we need to do something about it instead of organizing like we treat the Olympics once every 4 years. Because in the winter months before every election year, we have this realization that the country sucks. And then we pray that the DNC picks somebody who's going to fix it. And then we get upset that we're stuck in yet another lesser of two evils election because they're not going to. Because again, they're not actually rooting for us all that much. And it means that people, especially marginalized people, especially black folk, will do what they always did, which is vote for the actual lesser of two evils on the ballot. Is it fun? No. Is it all that productive? Not really. But it is what we got, because up until recently, y'all weren't even on our side. And now that you are morally on the same plane as us, you don't want to vote at all. So yeah, the lesser of two evils paradox is not helpful long-term or short-term, but neither is waiting till almost the last second that you possibly can to start advocating for change and then getting mad at other people when they're not doing it the way that you want them to. So either do what the Republicans do that makes them so incredibly successful, which is unify and organize, or shut up, because this constant division that you're sowing makes you sound a little bit like a Fed. But hey, what do I know? Because I'm paid off by the DNC. But please tell them to cut my check soon, because I got bills to pay and mouths to feed, and they also didn't forgive student loans. So.
No. You know why? No. You know why no to this comment that says your media consumption is your responsibility, you have to protect your own peace, and sometimes that means doing research and sitting out things that won't be good for you is wrong? You know why? Because this film was actively trying to victimize the audience. It was actively trying to put the audience in the victim's shoes, to the point that during the plot twist, and the plot twist being the actual rape of the woman in this movie, the women were being raped, and that was the fun plot twist that they were advertising. They were trying to make it seem like a fun twist the entire time, like you weren't supposed to go in knowing what would happen, and they made it, for all intents and purposes, purposefully seem like it was just going to be a culty thriller. Like it was just going to be Ready or Not, like it was going to be The Greatest Game, like it was going to be a movie where, sure, the women are being hunted down and murdered, but not hunted down and aggressively raped. And there is a difference. There is a difference. And you know why there's a difference? Because they're showing it through the victim's eyeline. So while she's being assaulted and having it all talked about in front of her, we are seeing through her eyes. And that is different. And you know what else makes it different? Most people, when they read the fucking trigger warning, and mind you, the trigger warning says, gonna bring it up real quick. Blink Twice is a psychological thriller about the abuse of power, not mentioning the fact that it's actually about the assault of every woman on the island. And then it says, while this is a fictionalized movie, it contains mature themes and depictions of violence, including sexual violence. So here's the thing. The movie is now making you think that maybe you don't need to do research. There's been a trigger warning. And not only that, they've been advertising all of this stuff and they're not showing the violence, which means that the violence is probably off screen, because a lot of violence like that, a lot of sexual violence like that is off screen. The depictions are just talked about. And while that may be triggering for some people, it's not triggering for all people. So the people who are seeing other depictions of sexual violence might just think that it's like a Greek tragedy. And on top of that, they're making it clear that the biggest trigger warning here, the first one that they mention, is the abuse of power. Which means that, yeah, Channing Tatum will be a bad guy. What type of bad guy will he really be? How will it be depicted? How will it be shown? We won't know. And on top of that, doing your own research means that you have to wait
until the next weekend to see the movie. And not everyone wants to wait until the next weekend to see the movie or wait later. Some people want to see movies on the first date, especially when the movie is written and directed by a black woman who is famous and who is liked and who you do want to support. And because you want to support that black woman, Zoe Kravitz, because you want to support the women who star in this movie, and this is a movie that has a lot of women front and center. So you want to support the movie that has a lot of women front and center. And because this is a movie that really does look like a fun time, and because this is a movie that has Alia Shawkat literally doing a lip syncing thing like she does every time that she's in Drunk History, it seems like it'll be a fun time where they're really making you think it'll be a cult film. You know why? Because the first thing Channing Tatum says is that he bought an island and he wears the same thing every day. And you know what happens in most cults? You wear the same thing every day in a tiny little place where you can't get away. So it seems, for all intents and purposes, like this could be a culty film, a murder film, a murdery culty film. And instead it's a film where you're in the eyes of the victims as they are aggressively getting raped and as they are being drugged. And there are not a lot of ways. Yes, there are ways to research it, but you have to wait a day. You have to wait 2 days. Maybe people didn't want to wait a day. Maybe people didn't want to wait 2 days. And also, on top of that, these are triggers most people don't fucking think they have. I didn't know I had these triggers until I saw them. And if they had said more information on the type of violence, which is what a trigger warning is supposed to be, it's supposed to give you more information on the type of violence because that type of violence might be triggering. A lot more people would probably have avoided seeing this film if they had known that they would be in the eyes of the victim. If they had known that it would be drug-induced sexual abuse. If they had known that the sexual abuse was actually a bigger part of it than the abuse of power, which again was the first thing that they said. They knew what they were doing. They were trying to trick the audience, much like Don't Worry Darling did, much like a lot of films are trying to do these days where there's supposed to be a fun twist and you don't want to know what the fun twist is until you get to the movie because it's going to be a fun twist. You want to be surprised. You want to be surprised. The surprise is part of the fun. That's how it's advertised. As the surprise being part of the fun. You can't enjoy the movie if you don't, if you already know the surprise, you can't enjoy it. It's not possible to enjoy the movie unless you know the surprise. So why would you look up the surprise? They knew what they were doing. And a Roman Polanski movie is definitely the perfect comparison to this movie. We should definitely be basing things off of Roman Polanski films. Definitely. It's not like he had to flee the country for what he did. No, you're right. Roman Polanski, perfect person to go off of.
People decide that they want to bring up exactly how much they hate Lily Moscovitz from The Princess Diaries. It's my least favorite thing in the entire world because I think it takes away so much when people decide that they're just going to hate the teenage girl. I think it takes away so much character development of that girl. I think it takes away so much of the concept of why they're like that. I think it takes away so much of the ability to analyze that character because people decide that they're just going to, I don't know why I can't open these anymore. What the heck? I think it takes away so much of the fabric of why that character was written the way that they were. And it's not just a Lily Moscovitz thing. It's also a Ginny from Ginny and Georgia thing. It's also a Rory Gilmore thing. People decide that they hate this character with all their heart and soul, and it no longer becomes something that you can look at. It no longer becomes something that you can analyze. It no longer becomes something that you can really look into and decide why you hate them, why you dislike them, why you're so annoyed with them, because it starts becoming this thing where you want to justify your hatred, because when you hate something, you justify the hatred. You have to justify the hatred for the thing that you hate to be able to keep hating the thing. So people will continuously go, I hate her because, and they list off a bunch of reasons, and then they stop looking at the reasons that those things happened. And with Lily Moscovitz, I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because here's the number one reason that a lot of the things that Lily Moscovitz did were done. She was 15. She was 14, she was 15, she was 16, she was 17, she was a child. She was young. She was as young as Mia, making the same mistakes as Mia, had a birthday close to Mia, and she saw the world from a very different perspective than, get this, Mia, because she grew up in a completely different household than Mia. Her parents may not have been divorced like Mia's for a very long time in the series, but you know what they were? So fucking toxic. Lily Moskovitz has to analyze and like therapize therapeutically analyze everybody that she meets. Psychoanalyze, that's what it is. She has to psychoanalyze everyone that she meets, and she has to psychoanalyze her best friend Mia, because that is probably what her parents are doing consistently. And I think the best proof of why it is probably what her parents are doing so consistently is because Lily will list things that her parents have said about Mia to Mia. Like, she's not just saying, I'm saying this, she's saying, my parents said this. So she's literally at 14, no fully formed prefrontal cortex here, just listing off the shit her parents say. And her parents also hate each other. They go through a really gross divorce later on in the series where Lily has to keep like running away to Michael's to even feel safe, basically, emotionally, because her parents are just being so brutal to each other. But because they're super calm doctors, they're both therapists, because they're so calm, we don't see the drama in that. And because they like to put a good face out for society, we don't see, because we're only from Mia's perspective, everything that's going on. We have to hear it secondhand. Not even just secondhand, we have to hear it secondhand from the second hand, because we're hearing everything that's happened to Mia secondhand in her diary. And so Lily Moskovitz is going through a really rough time. And meanwhile, while she's going through this really rough time, there is one thing that she knows for sure. Her best friend is more well-liked than she is. Her best friend is prettier than she is. Her best friend is 100% able to do better than her as a friend. So Lily is doing the abusive tactics that she probably learned from her parents that they're using to keep each other on the ropes on Mia. And is that good? No. Is it okay? No. Is it, like, in any way justifiable that she's doing this? No. But you know what she also is at this time? A child. People are aggressively, actively hating this child who is just using these learned tactics from her family to try and keep the singular friend that she has. And she's bad at it, and she does a bad job at it. And so it makes people hate her more. And I'm so sick of people hating female characters who are under the age of 25 in series because of like the 3 mistakes that they made in the entire series, or because of how they're written to talk in the series. And so everything else that they say is completely wrong, completely terrible, completely despicable, because they're annoying, because they're gross, because they're pick-me's. I'm getting so sick of the term pick-me. I know I have a series called If Bella Swan Were Like Other Girls, but that's just because I wanted to make a girlier version of Bella Swan. It's not because I'm calling Bella Swan a pick-me, because honestly, when people say pick me, it's the same way that they go, okay, Karen, when they're trying to close an argument. You're trying to win by using a meme. You're trying to win by using a meme. And that's not okay. And it is, like, it's getting weird and it's getting gross. Because at first, when the term pick me and the term not like other girls and the term like other girls and all these terms were first invented, or girl's girl, when the term girl's girl was first invented, it was actually to, like, look and analyze why people are behaving in such a way. And it was actually to, like, look and see, would I trust this girl to hold my drink? Would I trust this girl if I had to tell her something big? And now it's just become this thing where people are actively trying to hate women again, which is how it always goes. And anyways, I will defend Lily Moskovitz to the end of the earth, while also completely and utterly being angry at her the whole way around, because she is a fictional character and a 15-year-old girl. She's a 15-year-old girl. I know that she's fictional, but she's 15, and everyone hates her guts the entire time, and I'm like, she's not making great decisions, but she's making pretty understandable decisions for a 15-year-old. Do you know how much I sucked up until the age of 26? I'm 29 now. A lot. So much. Can't go into it, like, enough. I was the worst. Like, there are so many ways that you fuck up in your life, especially in your youth. And honestly, you're gonna keep fucking up later. And should Lily Moskovitz have been written to, like, apologize more? Yes. But when she does apologize, it's actually a pretty good one. for the most part, except for in the end when she had ditched me for like 3 years and then only like accepts me back if she breaks up with JP, because like one conversation would have worked, but she was still 17 at the time, okay? Anyways, I'm making really long videos again, guys. I need to like be able to snip these down. Okay, bye.